This next one's going to be a treat.
Oh my God, PhiDX is going ham right now.
Wait a minute, oh man! What a comeback! On the sweet PhiDX takes 2-0 over Arslan Ash. The whole crowd, all the training, all the note-taking, all the online tournaments, all the offline tournaments, everything paid off for him.
I definitely felt like a better person when I was more focused on the craft. And it's not just about the ranks, not just about the views. What about the artistry of what we're actually doing here? The people around me were like, how are you doing this? How are you getting so much better? I'm like genuinely having more fun. And then the results that I craved are kind of just arriving.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a very special guest today on Trash Talk. We're joined by the maybe premier, maybe the number one, I don't know, maybe the biggest Tekken content creator in the game, and my favorite Tekken coach personally. We have PhiDX here on Trash Talk. Phi, how you doing, man?
Good. Thanks for having me. I was super excited when you reached out to me. I've been listening to a few of these, and you put on a great show, so excited to be here.
Thank you. I mean, it's just the people doing it. I mean, that's the easy thing about doing the podcast is you just have other more interesting, more accomplished people come on and just leverage their success and charisma. So, a great lane for me to get into. But I think this is a cool time for you to hop on the podcast because I do want to talk about your journey so far and your relationship with fighting games and how it's developed over the years and the way you've been able to contribute to the world of not just Tekken but fighting games as a whole. But I think it's an interesting time because coincidentally, we just had the announcement that Harada is going to be retiring from the Tekken project coming up on its 30th anniversary. And like, what a better time to like look back, reflect on a legacy, and his contributions, and pair that with how much that means to the greater Tekken community. So I remember reading this tweet and thinking like, wow, like as much as it surprised me, it also didn't surprise me to a degree.
Right.
I don't know if you had a similar reaction.
Because he's been alluding to, some fatigue. He's been alluding to some like slight kidney issues. I think he said down 30% performance or something, and he had to cut alcohol. And then he's recently had some losses close to him, both mentors and just people he was close to in the industry. And I think he's been doing this for so long, and he's always talked about how much he puts into it. It was kind of a matter of time. But even so, I guess there was also a part of us that just sees Harada as Tekken, and Tekken and Harada are hand in hand. So even though we knew he was training people to take his place eventually, we knew he was passing on responsibilities, it was kind of something we all kind of pushed aside to, sometime in the future. So I think it caught a lot of us off guard how it's happening. End of 2025, he's leaving Bandai Namco.
And from your perspective, from someone who's been, really embedded in the Tekken community, what did Harada represent? And what was his role to the best of your knowledge, especially going back, because he is the face of Tekken. For someone who is more of a casual fan, I've been, Tekken's my first fighting game, actually. I played Tekken 3. That's playing Paul.
I didn't know that.
Figuring out how to do Death Fist and charging that and cheesing my friends. So Tekken has, I think, a big, long legacy for many people in the FGC today, even if it's not their main game. And since I've been a part of the FGC, to me, Harada Tekken, that's just... whatever goes on in the world of Tekken, you can attribute to the guy Harada. Yeah. And from your perspective, is that the truth? What did Harada mean to Tekken to you?
He stands out to me in modern game development. I feel like there's so much shielding between us and the developers. If you asked me to identify a face with Street Fighter 6, I don't have that clear image in the public eye of the dev team or someone who's front facing all the time. So Harada to me was always putting himself out there as the one making the announcements, as the one going to events. And what's also fascinating to me is that even in 2025, he was so front facing on Twitter. So he's constantly getting pinged for fix the game. This is all your fault. Yeah. At the same time as he's getting his flowers for putting out so much work into the franchise since Tekken 1. So I've just I don't have a clear image in my mind of other developers who are that front facing, that kind of in the community and willing to interface with everybody and reply to everybody, even though he definitely has better things to be doing with his time, right? He put a lot of energy into, exposing himself to the community for both the good and the bad. So yeah, it's I can see why it would be time for him to move forward, right? Even after just doing this for 1 year, I find a lot of fatigue in interacting with so many different people online that we're loosely connected by Tekken, but we all have different interests and different priorities. So I can't imagine how he's done it for this long.
Yeah, I mean, the famous meme with him is "Don't ask me for shit," right? Like he's definitely he's out there public facing, but he's not a pushover. That's for sure. Like he understands that there's going to be many different voices asking for many different things at the same time, and that he's like, "Hey, we're going to have a vision, and like we're going to hear you, but like at the same time, we have to commit to one vision, and you like it or you don't." Like, which I think is rather commendable. But at the same time, there's been a lot of, I think, friction with that. Like I've seen public perception kind of take a negative turn from that mentality. I've seen a lot of people go, "Oh, I wouldn't expect more from the guy that says don't ask me for shit." Like in some ways, people see that as almost arrogance over the years. Like I've seen mixed reception from Harada. He's been a little almost controversial, I think, over the years, even though I think mainly he's been a beloved figure to the fighting game community. And I can understand why he would have that defense up being in the public eye so much.
I feel like it's a consequence of just being front facing. The sense I got, especially after interacting with him a few times and following his, his tweets really close for a long time, is that he's as best as he can, he's trying to be genuinely in the community. So he has that "don't ask me for shit" as kind of like a meme. Like everybody's asking for stuff, just leave me alone. But he does listen and reply to people who have concerns. But I think because he's front facing, it's so easy for somebody like walking by to see that and be like, "Oh, that's weird. Why is the developer saying don't talk to me?" That doesn't make much sense. But his actions have proven otherwise for so long, And it's like you said, they do have to commit to a vision and they have to stand by what they're going to do as game developers. But the fact that he's even putting it out there as like, "Give us your feedback. What are you interested in?" to me is just way more than I would normally expect. So I think it's unfortunate that he's caught so much heat and controversy, especially recently with that interview. He said something like, "Oh, Capcom is doing pay-per-view. It looks like the industry is monetizing differently in general. I'm interested in seeing how that evolves." How I read it was it seemed like a read on esports and the industry as a whole, but it got taken as a kind of a quote clip of like, "Oh, he's interested in doing that for Tekken. He's here to ruin the series once again." And it just seemed like yet again the consequences of being front facing and being so interactive and vocal coming back to bite him. So it's a shame to me in that sense.
Yeah, I read, I saw that headline and I clicked on the article and I read the one quote from it, and you just need an extra 2 sentences of context to understand that he's clearly not trying to implement that. He's just commenting that it is interesting because it is. As someone who's been very vocal and anti-Capcom pay-per-view, it was very clear that he wasn't endorsing it. It's just he's trying to see how it plays out. He's sitting back and observing, and he commented about how he wanted to sit back and observe, and that alone got him in heat because he wasn't coming out guns blazing saying Capcom is dumb. Like, just being pragmatic in the situation that he has no control over whatsoever. It's crazy that he's putting up with that for 30 years. I definitely would have retired a lot sooner if I was in his position, or at least taken a step back from being public facing. But clearly he's been an important figure in the scene and such a legendary series like Tekken. It's a game that not only is, decades running now, but it also is amongst most modern fighting game series, the series that maintains its identity, I feel like, from iteration to iteration. It maintains that sense of progression from previous titles, and you hear a lot about people talking about Tekken in regards to legacy skill. Whereas you look at a Street Fighter series, right, between each title, there's skills that transfer over, of course, there's basic fundamentals, but there's always major shakeups between the iterations, and characters get reworked and they modify move lists, and even if they have the same animations, the properties are very different. And you often have players coming in and they might not transfer to the next title, and new players replace them. Like it's very much a refresh every time they iterate on that number at the end of the title. Whereas Tekken, it's like they keep building on it. They keep building and building and building. And part of that is like Harada's been there all the way through. He's a through line through the whole series. What do you feel like the next step is with Harada stepping away? Do you think there's going to be something missing from this series going forward?
So I think important context is in his farewell tweet, he mentioned that he started handing over responsibilities about 4 to 5 years ago, which places us around the release of Tekken 7 Season 4. And that was a big season that had a lot of people who were really heavy on the legacy skill, people who have way before my time. Like a lot of people who taught me are very much like, what are we doing with the game at this point, man? Like this is getting ridiculous. And so it didn't catch as much traction, I don't think, because it was also around the time that Arslan Ash was coming up. So there's this huge Pakistan story. Tournaments are kind of on the lowdown, I think, because of COVID. So I don't think that pushback caught as much momentum or as traction as like we have with Tekken 8 Season 2, for example. But I think we've seen some of the effects of Harada trying to pass responsibilities to other people and seeing their takes on the series, and we don't have, faces to latch onto and be like, it's this guy's the problem, this guy's the problem. But we have some slight cracks forming, I think. So there's a little bit of cause for concern there. On the flip side, the current director, Nakatsu, is someone from the community. And after the Season 2 Backlash, he mentioned that going forward, any battle balance changes will have to go through his desk, basically. Which implies that there have been changes before that didn't. That he they really delegated it out and were like, this is going to be fine. Like, we trust these people. For one reason or another, it didn't pan out. So there are concerns, obviously, with someone who's not just been with Tekken for so long, but has been like spearheading it through whatever corporate infrastructure is happening, through different trends in gaming and things like that. I think somebody who is carrying Tekken arcade cabinets to events and saying, please play Tekken, how can you replace that? How can you replace someone like Harada who's been fighting for the series? So that's probably my main concern, game design aside, and like no matter how much they decide to change up Tekken 8 has already been a huge change up in so many ways. Finding somebody with that same level of passion is probably the top priority, right? Someone who will defend Tekken's identity or whatever they imagine it to be in front of corporate interests or shifting trends in gaming. I think that would be one of the that would be the biggest challenge in my mind.
Yeah, it's gonna be hard to find someone with that passion. I mean, you might have to judge them based on their Tekken OST mixes. I was listening to the mix, he posted that. I was like, what? Like, this guy just loves Tekken. I don't know, like everything about it beyond just the high level gameplay. He loves the aesthetic, he loves the music. He put together a whole 1 hour mix. Yeah, of course, opening with the King of Iron Fist. It just you can feel the passion from all the positive and even negative interactions that he's had over the years, because man, he gets into some arguments that definitely seem beneath him.
Yeah, I think
he's really fighting in the comments sometimes, and I'm like, Harada, like, you don't need to engage with these people. These are bad faith actors on social media. And I think that just speaks to how much he cares, man. Like, it's really,
no, I completely agree.
It's in his blood. Hey, thanks for checking out the brand new Trash Talk content, and maybe you're enjoying the new and refreshed look on the brand new Trash Talk YouTube channel. Well, whether or not you're tuning in on YouTube or Spotify or another podcast platform, I want to thank today's sponsor, you. To commemorate kicking off the new season of Trash Talk, we've also launched a new merch line. This new merch line's on a brand new merch store over at Orchid 8. You can check out t-shirt and hoodie designs for the new Trash Talk logos and extra trashy logos. We also have brand new unique designs like Hajoken, custom move lists, one more coffee sip for real, and of course, Brian F's signature spaghetti. On top of that, of course, we've got all the designs on mugs as well. To check out what's available, just head over to brianf.shop to see all the brand new merch. Okay, that's all I got. Back to the episode. Well, speaking of that, with the origins and the legacy of Harada, of course, I want to talk about where you've come from, PhiDX, because when I did some research on you, man, leading up to this, I was caught off guard.
Which part?
Well, when I think of Tekken players, I think of people who have been playing Tekken and only Tekken their entire life. There is a reputation.
Yeah.
Even more so than I think Street Fighter players. Street Fighter players have a bit of that reputation, but Tekken players are known for only playing Tekken.
Yeah.
Not even like other 3D fighting games. Not that there's many options these days for active 3D fighting games, but only playing Tekken. However, the oldest video on your YouTube channel from October 11th, 2015 is titled Melee Video from University Crew Battle, Playing Marth. And then the commentators, they say that you had a strong Project M background before you go in to play a Martha mirror match in Smash Brothers Melee.
Yeah.
You're a Smash player?
I am a Smash player, but I mean, I've been a Tekken player. There's photographic evidence of me playing Tekken 1 at my grandma's house with my cousin. So technically, I come from Tekken. But yeah, I would say late high school and going into college, for sure, the Smash scene was super big. I went to college in NorCal, and some of the heaviest hitters in the scene at that time were straight out of NorCal. So our locals were super, super intense. And I think I just craved that challenge, just that there are better players there that feel insurmountable. It feels like the perfect place to make a name. I liked the idea of being thrown in a big pond and kind of making my name known there. To me, I went to like a smaller school in the Pacific Northwest, so being a big fish in a small pond didn't really appeal to me, but kind of going into a place where there's real killers, real like super sweaty players, I loved the idea of possible prestige there. And Project M just happened to be the game I was playing at the time, just because growing up and playing Brawl, I thought it looked really cool. They came out with this mod. I'm like, why not? This is super fun. I'll play with my friends. And yeah, that was kind of the gateway into Melee.
Interesting. So this is 2015. So were you aware of the greater FGC outside of Smash at that era? Because to me, like 2011 to 2015, this is like a golden age, in my opinion, of the online FGC forming, getting to tune in to like Team Spooky, WNF. Like for a Capcom head, this was like the best era of online streaming. It was the perfect blend of offline locals and communities suddenly being accessible via these online platforms like Twitch, and then YouTube was starting to grow. And then of course Evo was definitely blowing up at this time, especially like 2013. I think it started to become like real international, right? And that's even when Melee was featured at Evo. So were you aware of the FGC? Like when did you even know that the FGC existed?
I would say I was loosely aware. So I dipped my toes into Tekken Tag 2. That was probably the most I played a fighting game. And that's prior, I think, to really diving into Project M and Melee. But my cousin and I, who played Tekken 1 together, he had a PS3 and he had Tag 2. So I remember playing at his house. I remember, and we'd grown up playing Tekken 5 and things like that too. But Tag 2 is the first time I learned like frame data and punishes and things like that. And I think, if I recall correctly, it's from watching tournaments at Evo, listening to Eris commentate, watching, I think, Gen play, and then watching JDCR, and then Knee versus Bronson Tran. So I was like, Bronson Tran, that's a Vietnamese guy. He's American. Oh, he's playing these characters, and all these Korean tryhards playing the Mishimas. Look, he's playing Ogre. That's pretty exciting, you know? So I had this real, I would say, a very opposite take to what I have now, where I've become kind of Tekken pilled, and I really appreciate the expertise going into it. Back then, I'm like, this game is so sweaty and hard, and I like hitting my buttons. And look, this is a non-meta pick. This is a really cool, off-meta guy, and he ended up getting second to Knee, and I was disappointed at the time. But yeah, I would say that was my biggest exposure, was watching major tournaments here and there, listening for the commentary. They mentioned a punish, and then I Google on the forums, what's a punish? What's frame data? And Tag 2 is where that definitely started. And I attribute a lot of my, I guess, easing into Tekken 7 and Tekken 8 to that period of time where I was training Korean backdash and throw breaks and things like that in the Tekken Tag 2 era, because we had that online experience for the first time. I hadn't played like fighting games with other players before besides my cousin. So
what controller were you using at this time? Like, you weren't on an arcade stick right away, were you? There's no way.
It was a pad. It was a pad. And then because of watching Eris, I started looking at arcade sticks. I bought this Hori fighting pad V3 or something. I wish I had it here. But then after I played on that for a little bit and I was really disappointed with how it felt, I still have the main stick I trained on.
Okay. Let's see it.
This is the 8-arc Fusion Synthesis. So PS3 arcade stick. Beautiful. And I loved this. The door keeps breaking off. But this is basically what I trained on for most of Tekken Tag 2, and going into Tekken 7. I played on this nonstop. It wasn't until I started streaming and liking the idea of doing maybe hardware reviews or something that I started picking up way more of these than I need. But yeah, the Tekken Tag 2 was definitely the gateway, and then it went on a bit of a hiatus as I got into other games. But then that foundation, I think, was really important.
Okay, yeah, I was wondering about that foundation because scrubbing through your YouTube channel, you're playing Melee, you're playing Project M, and then you're playing League of Legends.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of League of Legends videos on there. It seemed like you were even kind of tryharding a little while. There was like some coaching videos. And are you getting coached, or are you coaching other people? What's going on? You had a whole league arc.
Both. So again, I think going into college and wanting this idea of being a streamer or having this prestigious platform, there was like this the appeal of having clout was so cool to me back then, right? And whether it was through expertise in a game or being knowledgeable and educational, I couldn't decide. I didn't know. I didn't have a clear direction, but I knew that was something that I was interested in. So League of Legends felt like, well, it was honestly the game I was addicted to at the time, but it also felt like a cool venue for that because it had a huge audience, because it had this very serious like ladder where it felt like at a certain point in rank you had like credibility. And it wasn't until I got to the FGC later that I kind of stepped back from that, where it's all offline tournament results and kind of your proven track record that had a lot more credibility. But coming from League, it felt like, I hit this rank. People below this rank will, trust what I have to say. Maybe I can come out with educational videos at that point. But I was watching a lot of LS, big League of Legends content creator, and it's relevant because going into Tekken 7, when I did start doing educational content, most of my style, even like the cadence in which I spoke, was kind of built off of all the content I watched from him. So the League of Legends would come back in when I was coaching like Tekken 7 mentality, or like ranked anxiety, or going into tournaments and trying to keep your composure. I carried a lot of the lessons from League through that. So even though I feel like I burned a lot of time playing League and I got really mad all the time and I was not a happy person, the lessons I think mattered, and the content I consumed mattered to how I built more of this content later on in Tekken 7 and Tekken 8.
Okay, that made it worthwhile then. It's interesting. I feel like there's so many content creators and just people who are like adjacent to the esports scene who may have drifted off into other fields that went through a very similar experience in this era. I feel like I was in university, starting in 2011 to 2015, 2010 to 2015. And I saw the rise of leagues. Like all my friends played League the whole time while I was playing Street Fighter. And that was the rise of Twitch and all that. And everybody was wasting their life away on League. And I don't think anyone went pro, but there was definitely lessons to take away from that. So it's interesting to see that gave you the foundation you have for understanding your competitive mentality and also a bit of your coaching and eventually your content creation, which it seemed like you were already dabbling in that. And I definitely understand that trajectory because I started the same, just uploading random matches, like playing in your college scene, trying to, these are the players that are good, I got to beat them, trying to climb the ranks, documenting as you go. And eventually, your videos, they suddenly switch. Noctis comes out, right? And then there's YouTube-y videos, right? You have one of the first ranked highlight videos on your channel. Hard read your opponent. He destroyed me until I found his tricks. Noctis versus Gon Ryu ranked online. And you mentioned how you've been playing since Tekken 3, maining lost since Tag 2, but once Noctis came out, well, the choice was obvious. Yep. But even then, you mentioned also in the description, I like to optimize gameplay and spread a positive mindset in competitive games. Call me out if I say something dumb. I'm here to learn too. So this is all the way back in like early, is this 2019 or 2020 era?
That sounds like 2019, 2020, yeah.
Yes. So even back then, you're starting a little bit of that YouTube content, and you're hitting all the nice caps and everything to get the nice attractive title going there. But also you have a focus there on this like growth mindset. So it sounds like that was something you learned from the League days, but like where did that become like such a core part of your mantra, your goal in this space of competitive gaming?
Yeah, so that's I could go on forever with that. Let me see. Important timelines, I'd say Tag 2 was like 2012, 2013, so that's like late high school for me. I go to college in 2014, 2015, and then I finished college in 2019. And then that's when I started playing more Tekken, because League of Legends games and queues take so long that after I finished working, I would get like 1 or 2 league games. And I was like, this is not going to work. I can't stream this. At least with Tekken, I can get more games. I can get more experience and, get more reps. So that was part of my decision to go into Tekken in the first place. The growth mindset very clearly much came out of League, but also the high school college experience. I definitely had a very stereotypical Asian high school experience gunning for top colleges. Like ranking was what mattered. And I think I've been alluding to it earlier at how I liked the allure of kind of either beating someone who's really known for being strong or having a big content platform. I think all of that is like closely interrelated. So coming out of college and having like some hard competitive experience and playing way too much League of Legends, I definitely felt like a better person when I was more focused on the craft. Like what actually makes the Tekken fun? What actually makes the gameplay fun? It's not just about the rank. It's not just about the views. What about the, for lack of a better word, the artistry of what we're actually doing here, And when I focused in on that, I was having more fun. I was playing better. The people around me were like, how are you doing this? How are you getting so much better? I'm like, I'm genuinely having more fun doing what I'm doing. And I'm more interested in what's happening. And then the results that I craved are kind of just arriving. And once I kind of got a first nibble on how good that felt, I was like, I think we're onto something here. How many people, how many intermediates are like me who really want to break this higher level of play, but they're their own worst enemy? Is it as simple as just saying, hey, maybe if you relax a little bit and then play the game and have fun playing the game, you might get these results that you're so interested in? And I think that's where my first little growth spurt happened, is I was so focused on that. It was speaking to a certain amount of people who shared the same mindsets I had, I guess from maybe they played too much League of Legends too. I don't know. But it felt like it was resonating and it was something I was really energized by doing. So that kind of drove, I think, the first little YouTube spike in Tekken 7 was talking about something that was really close to home.
Interesting. So what would you say was your like level of competitive play during this time when you started to really hone in on producing Tekken videos? Because it seemed like it was around like COVID era 2020, and I'm looking at your Wikipedia page. Like I mentioned before, I kind of expected a little bit. This may be my ignorance. Tekken players, they've been playing since 1987, man. Like, yeah. where is your Tekken 1 Evo runs, whatever? What I mean? Like I expected it to go all the way back. Every time I look at a Tekken player, they have ancient archives of results all over the place, right?
Right.
For you, the first results you start to see are the ICFC online brackets from 2020.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that was a little bit surprising to me. I was like, whoa, I expected this to go way, way further back. And then I'm looking at your YouTube channel. I'm like, oh, there's like a direct correlation. Like you're documenting essentially your growth to become a strong top level competitor in this era, right? Like, so can you describe where you started when you really started to make an effort into your content, and then how that progressed over the next couple of years?
Yeah, so back to 2019, finish college, start working, no time to play League. Around the same time, coincidentally, I went to a Portland local, and I think I got a big win on kind of the local heavy hitter. Is Kenji. He was a Lily player back then, and he was notorious for playing with people. So like he would see that you're kind of nervous, you're kind of afraid, and he would snake at you, just like, are you really ready to react to this? Like, are you shaking in your boots? And he would hit me with it all the time. And we had actually played back in Tag 2, so I knew of him and we had some experience, but it was kind of, he was that guy to beat. But with Noctis, season 3, season 4 Noctis, I had a character who was extremely boosted, and I was really passionate about playing. The third big factor is I saw nobody was playing him. I think everybody wrote him off as either boring or lame or not good enough. So to me, he was an opportunity. He was like my favorite character in any fictional media. So it was just his announcement was crazy. I thought I was like hallucinating or something.
Well, hold on. I got to stop you there. Why does Noctis mean so much to you? Because I just did a review. I did a couple months ago a review of like the fighting game announcement reveals, and I had people submit like what their favorite ones were, the best and the worst. And the Noctis one, to me, I have to say, as someone who does not care about the original source material, was one of the worst character announcements of all time. And here you're telling me that Noctis is your favorite character in all of fictional media.
Yeah.
What am I missing here? Like if you had to give your elevator pitch here on Noctis, what's going on here?
So in his game, his character really spoke to me, and I played through the game as it came out. Again, I was deep in college, I was deep in League of Legends, and the entire aesthetic of the game appealed to me. So like my favorite kind of character in any like anime or Final Fantasy game or whatever is someone who can teleport, and I like the idea of someone who uses multiple weapons, not just one. And Noctis is a teleporting weapons master who summons the weapons. So he doesn't even, like, he fights with his fists, and then he'll just call out a weapon and throw it at you, or, you know, and he'll teleport to the other weapon. So it was just a match of the perfect aesthetic. And then his story arc through the game is, I find, very compelling. He's like supposed to be this prince. He's supposed to be really privileged, but he's carrying the weight of, I think, multiple centuries of kings before him that have basically destined him to die to save the world. So he has this really cushy life, but he knows at the end of it he's supposed to die. And it's kind of him coming to terms with that and rising to become a hero that he didn't want to be. He just wanted to be a normal dude. Whether that's compelling to everybody, I can't say. But to me, I found that very compelling. So when they brought him to Tekken, and again, at the time, I was a League and Melee player, I kind of fell off of Tekken 7 because I thought Law wasn't that fun to play at the time. I didn't have, I guess, that local scene really locked in. I didn't show up. I didn't get addicted to that or to the online play. So I was kind of off Tekken. They announced Noctis. I was like, what the heck, man? This is like my favorite character. What is he doing here? And the announcement was hyped to me because I liked him. Even looking back now, I can totally see how that would be like, what are we doing with Tekken, man? This guy has swords. This is the wrong franchise. He's supposed to be in Soul Calibur.
It's not even just that. Even from a non-Tekken player perspective, the trailer was 30 seconds of staring at a torso and a phone and a guy going, hello. And there's nothing there. There's nothing there at all. So, but now that you give me the elevator pitch, I can understand why that would be hype in such a compelling character. So I understand a bit more now. Right.
It happened to go hard, and going into that first local in 2019. So I think that was 4 years after Final Fantasy 15 even came out. I'm playing a character that is seen as low tier, but I feel differently. He's very underrepresented, so nobody has any matchup experience, and nobody's fought me in this scene since, well, it would have been like 2012, 2013. So I'm coming back with League experience, Melee experience, this mental fortitude, and then I have this character nobody's seen before. So I start putting up results quickly in the local, and I don't get first places a bunch. I lose to a lot of knowledge checks and things like that because I'm still new to Tekken 7, so to speak. But it was kind of, oh, there's something here. Then COVID hits, online tournaments start coming up, and I start thinking, well, I've always wanted to stream. I had been streaming some League, and what if I have these promising results early? What if I start doing well in these tournaments and people think I'm like cheating because nobody's heard of me, nobody's seen me? So I wanted to stream. I wanted to stream with a hand cam, partially also because I loved arcade stick stuff. And then my goal at the time was, if I keep placing top 8, they have to stream my matches, which means my name will be there. I'm playing a character nobody's seen before. So I just have to get top 8s over and over and over again. And that was my only goal, I think, from 2020 to 2023, or until that first ICFC win. I think with enough top 8s, I started feeling like, well, maybe I can win. This might be cool. Let's see what happens. So that was kind of the goal, was place high, get attention, turn that into a stream.
Right. I mean, that's the flow chart. Well, that's how it works. Like, you're describing pretty much every fighting game streamer's flow chart is, do the online tournaments, place well enough while streaming, and then build your name. Like, that's literally how it operates. It's just funny to me, the little anecdote you dropped in there of I wanted to stream so people didn't think I was cheating. Like, you jogged my memory about how scripting in the Tekken community was around for a while and known for even back in Tekken 7, because cheating and scripting in Street Fighter was not a thing really at all until Street Fighter 6. It wasn't even on the radar of the online community, the competitive community at all. Because either you're like blatantly a bot, like you're a task bot reading every input, and it's just so beyond obvious and you're banned instantly. It's almost like a gimmick. But there's no one doing any kind of auto block or anything of that nature. Street Fighter 6 comes along, and then there's auto perfect parry, auto DI, and people are fine tuning the rates at which they happen, so it's more subtle and harder to detect. But in Tekken, that was around even back in 2020.
It was definitely around. I don't think it was as rampant as my story may have given off. I think what it was I was really paying respect to that idea that I'm not a legacy player. Nobody's heard of me before. And I'm playing this character that nobody thinks is good enough to even win a tournament. So if it were to happen, I would not want that to be something to deal with. In retrospect, it might have been a bigger spike in viewership to be like, is he cheating? Is he not? There's more attention. But that's my optimization brain at work.
Keep some mystique for a little while before the grand reveal. Like, yes, it is I have been winning all your tournaments with low tier Noctis. You guys are all fools. No, but yeah, that's the strategy. That's how it operates, right? Like that's a similar path I was taking as well. Was I mean, I always streamed while playing in offline tournaments from like the 2014 Street Fighter 4 era till COVID. I was going to offline events and just streaming my practice. But when COVID hit, like the goal was just stream NLBC, stream the big online weekly. Like that's what you do. Yeah, and then you become part of the ongoing conversation in the competitive scene. If you do really well, you have a hype run, people tune in. So that's just like the flowchart for a competitive player. So you're doing all this online, you're building your stream. Are you also producing your educational content at the same time? Or is that something that evolves a little bit more after you feel like you've established yourself? Like, hey, actually, I'm getting kind of nice. Like you guys actually have to worry about me in these tournaments.
I think I'm trying to remember. I definitely had the idea of educational content very early on. And I think the placements were for that credibility, but I did believe in what I was teaching. Like I did an early Korean backdash guide even before Tekken 8, and it was built on the speed kicks method. But I thought there are so many people who are not going to sit to watch the entirety of his video, even though I think it's paced well and is designed to actually teach really well. Mine was kind of for mass appeal. And it turns out repackaging speed kicks content for mass appeal is going to be a theme. But I made like a 3-minute Korean backdash guide back then, and I knew it was going to be useful and helpful because it's how I learned it. But when it came to mindset stuff too, I also believed that, hey, this is going to be useful, but why would you, if you have the same mindset as me, where you're kind of results driven and really focused on your internal metric of prestige when you get a certain rank, why would you listen to somebody who didn't have results to back himself up? So it was kind of in tandem. I knew that I wanted to get these placements, get my name out, get some credibility. I knew I wanted to be an avenue for educational content. There is room to do it in parallel. It doesn't have to be totally one into the other. And in general, I think it's better, especially now, to go forward doing and adjust than to kind of wait for the perfect moment to put something out, you know?
What's your philosophy on that these days? Because I absolutely agree with almost the feeling of imposter syndrome around producing educational content without having the results to back it up. And I feel like that was a much larger stigma in earlier eras, years past. I feel like it's died down a tiny bit. But when I was producing, my first like wave of more successful YouTube videos in like the early part of the 2020s, 2021, I was having a lot of success on YouTube at that time, but there was obviously tons of comments like, who the hell are you? Like, you suck ass. Like, you've never been to an offline event in your life, completely ignoring all the time. You know what I mean? Like, people who, even if you had the resume that they demanded for you to be eligible to give advice, like they just shift the goalposts or they'd ignore the evidence or whatever. Like, there was a ton of that backlash. I had that all the time, even though I'm, but in my own mind, I still was like, I need to do well in these online tournaments. I do have to back it up, whatever. And eventually I'm like, no matter what you do, these online trolls are going to say you suck. And have you won Evo? You can't teach me how to do a basic B&B without winning Evo. Like, people are going to always have that mindset. So eventually I think I no longer subscribe to that mentality. I do think there's a level of expertise that can only be gained via doing the thing. Like, you need to compete to a degree. You need to have gone through the ropes of actually implementing your own advice. But I definitely have lowered my competitive success requirements in regards to people producing educational content. And I think there's a lot of people in the scene now that are finding success in producing content that can onboard lower to mid-level players. And they're very successful and they're very good at what they do, because the skill is not necessarily around winning. The skill is around communication and teaching. So it's interesting that you had a very similar mindset to me at the time.
Right.
Do you still subscribe to that? Has your opinion changed over the years, or how do you feel about the merits to producing educational content and what accolades you need to back that up?
I lean towards where you're at now, and I think it's not just what you mentioned, but also that different content serves different audiences. And so while I felt that I needed credibility to be this super strong, proven competitor to teach the other intermediates, there's a huge class of intermediates who will learn just by watching top-level Korean or Pakistani VODs. And they just study by absorption of the gameplay. They don't need explanations. They don't need tutorials. They just need a visual example of what is the ideal gameplay, right? Or the highest level of gameplay currently available. There are other people who need early onboarding and then get onto that trend. And then there's kind of a whole spectrum in between. Some people who need regular guidance. I saw myself as somebody who needed a lot of regular guidance. So content like mine was honestly built to serve someone like me who wants to be told a lot of things and can do reasoning through a lot of things and wants to also think about it, but prefers regular check-ins, I guess, right? But I think I really came to that perspective of it doesn't matter too much when I saw a ton of comments saying like, Arslan Ash doesn't know what he's talking about. I was like, really, guys? Or like Arslan is washed because he loses one tournament.
Right.
It's at a point realized like, okay, a hater is going to be a hater.
Yeah.
And while there is some internal confidence, I think that can come from putting out proven results or testing out the ideas I have. I do agree that generally it's probably better to make the content. It will serve people. And if you're being, honest about how accurate it is and, trying to be as self-aware as possible, like, is this actually helping? I think it can generally be good, no matter what level you're at. Obviously, again, there's probably a floor, but I wouldn't be the one to cut it off at like, you got to be Tekken King to make a guide,
Right. Absolutely. And it's funny you say proven results, because I can imagine during this time, 2020, 2021, competing online, guy who was out of nowhere. He's a Smash player. He's a Filthy League player. He's winning with Noctis online, not true Tekken.
Yeah,
I'm sure you experience a lot of backlash of people discrediting or discounting any competitive success, even though you're trying to chase this sort of internal checkpoint. Like, once I win so many ICFCs, once I beat this person online or place this often, then my content has credibility and my clout is meaningful. But I'm sure you face a lot of backlash, because until recent years, online wins do not count. Like when COVID first happened, online wins were meaningless. Like, people did not care, and eventually you had to be like, hey guys, like, this is what it is. Like, I think that forced the community to adapt a little bit. But during that era, do you feel like you were starting to find success? And then what was the response from the community, and what was your reaction to that response?
Yep, no, you were spot on. And it was definitely an internal thing too. Even I was like, well, this is an online win, just because you beat this guy doesn't mean it's that big of a deal. But it did feel good. But I distinctly remember, I believe it was Summer Jam 2022. I was playing my first stream match on stage. I was fighting Victim of Ritual at the time, Victimo now. And I did the Noctis low spear. And everybody says it's reactable. I hit it online all the time. I throw the low spear out, it gets blocked, and someone in the crowd goes, "This ain't online anymore." And I was shook. It's crazy too in retrospect, because it was a read. It was not a reaction. He was already ducking and I threw it. Tomato. Either way, the crowd spoke, and then I got nervous and I got launched and I was in a combo. So that kind of moment started another arc where I think mastering playing well offline was a big challenge. But I also think I got away with a bit more support because I had this very fake solid style. So because I loved Korean backdashing and I loved watching JDCR whiff punch and stuff like that, I would go into these online tournaments and I would just be moving. There was no, like, I think when people thought of Noctis, they thought of him swinging the sword all the time, doing all the cheap moves. I kind of off the back of, like, the main man's content at the time, he picked Noctis and just did the big sword move and the big spear. And that was kind of the public perception. So when I showed up in these tournaments and I'm just moving, and I'm not really doing much because I have a sword that can control the screen, but it looks really cool, So to the untrained eye, it's like, hey, he's kind of doing the Tekken thing. He's just moving and whiff punishing and counter hitting. This is kind of solid. So it was definitely a mixed reception. And I kind of fed on that too, because I was like, yeah, I am solid. I'm just moving around. Like, this is really cool Tekken. But then there were definitely like people who had been offline a lot and had kind of been through that rigorous environment compared to me playing at my desk at home. And yeah, there was definitely some initial friction there too. But getting the offline wins was really validating. There was a time where I got an offline win and people in the chat were like, told you he'd be good. We saw how we played online. It's the same solid stuff. So yeah. it was initially a bit of both, but definitely I think I got carried by deciding that I wanted to move a lot, and it happens to look really good, and people kind of latched onto that.
You were almost influenced to play the right way.
Yeah.
It's interesting hearing your discussion, because I do feel like there's a lot of pressure for players, especially those who see the prestige of being a competitive fighting game player. They want to be that guy, or they want to beat those guys. It does create sort of this feedback loop of molding what you do to be playing the correct way, because there is stigmas around how you win. Like, people absolutely will create narratives or have bias around what characters you use, what mechanics you favor, and your overall general playstyle, regardless of the actual accolades behind it. And that persists to this day. Also, like, how you look, your personality. I don't like your haircut. You know what I mean? Like, these biases are very real. Like, they exist. We see it in the FGC today. And I've definitely felt that pressure myself to play the right way. Even when I was playing, when I first on the come up, right? Like, I started getting wins against my training partners, or like the people who my senpai, right? The person who taught me Street Fighter.
Right.
But when I beat them, it was the wrong way. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, I was doing the dumb thing. I was playing random, and they're a little like, oh man, that's how you're gonna, like, you know, like a little bit of roll of the eyes and a little salty about it. And I'm like, well, I won. What is it? What's the problem? And I think generally it's a push towards a more consistent direction. But have you ever thought about that? Like, do you ever feel like maybe because there was a tiny part of you playing for the approval of others, that it maybe hindered your potential growth as a player?
That is a fantastic question, and that is an ongoing thing. So I think the combination of my upbringing and the way I value attention and things like that, my head is deeply cemented in high expected value play, very consistent play, long set, data driven, in the sense that you're watching your opponent, seeing their timing, seeing their patterns, and using your defense to make it as hard for them as possible to win, while also still playing the offensive parts of the game in an unpredictable way. That idealistic view, like playing like Knee, playing like Arslan, that is way ingrained in kind of my mental view of the game. So when it comes to teaching, when it comes to discussing the game, I lean towards it that way. But in my heart, I am the slimiest thief you could ever. I'm a Teemo player. I'm a Teemo player disguised as a solid player. And I think that is what makes me hard to fight, even way back in Tekken 7, is that I put on the costume of a hyper solid player, and sometimes I would feel like doing something that made no sense. And for the people prepared to fight a hyper solid player, it made no sense. So it would hit them. And I think even going into Tekken 8, that's something I've been kind of unwinding, especially because Tekken 8 is way less of a by the book Tekken than I think Tekken 7 was. Tekken 7 was so by the book that even if you had a read, it would be statistically better sometimes to just do the solid thing and save your HP and try to make a play later. Play the clock if you can. Right. Tekken 8 is... there's not a clear textbook. Sometimes you have to really dive headfirst into the mix and be willing to see who dies and who lives, you know? And in those environments, I can't rely on what my brain has decided is the solid play or what is consistent. I have to play to my heart. And if I think it's going to hit this dude, I have to do it. I can't be afraid. So, yeah, especially going into Season 2, I've been training a lot more, and like it's been hard to decide where to do content because of all the, you know, the drama and the controversy. So I just focused on my play a bit, and we've been figuring out, like, there is a huge element of not full sending it on what you think is approvable play or what is, you know, textbook clean play. There's a human element that you have to embrace. And it's to me, it's more fun that way too. It's like playing in a way that's really authentic to me has allowed me to have more fun with the game rather than kind of doing something, getting this dopamine hit and being like, was that the right thing to do? Is that clean play? I think there's room for analysis and criticism, but also it's a game, and expressing yourself through the game is kind of what makes fighting games so cool, right?
Very true. Okay, it's interesting to see you work through that to embrace that side, because that's something I definitely struggle with as well, and I think that's one of my struggles with Street Fighter 6 as well. I think Street Fighter 5 was a game you could play very much by the book, and Street Fighter 6, I think that exists, of course, at every level, but it's very much you better make the read and do it to the opponent, and consequences be damned, because there's consequences to inaction. And I think a lot of fighting games are in that direction these days. And I was wondering about that with your journey, because I definitely relate to sort of the structure you've gone through and your competitive development, but also like how to let loose. Like that's something I've been exploring as well, like how to just let it go and be like, screw it, I'm gonna do the random DI, I'm gonna go for the random whatever, see what happens.
I think if I could sum it up, it's like in my brain, I want to play like Punk. Like it looks so clean and so solid. But in my heart, I'll see a Japanese Kami player do something minus into the forward heavy kick, and it back swings and hits them. I'm like, yeah. And so like my head and my heart are at odds. But I think that playing what's true to my heart and still leveraging the knowledge and the kind of analysis that I do like to do for real is there's a sweet spot somewhere in the middle there.
I'm glad you brought up the Punk example, because I always fall into the trap of watching Punk play the latest DLC character, and I'm like, oh yeah, you just whiff punish with this one button and anti-air everything and you win, and that's how you should play. And then when I go for it, I'm like, well, it turns out I'm not a savant level footsie god, and maybe I should implement the grime and use the other tools and mechanics and actually try to scum out wins. And then suddenly my win rate skyrockets, and I'm like, I guess, ideally I feel like I would just whip punish everybody and anti-air and play footsies perfectly and never take any risk and just win all the time, right? But maybe it's not the best approach for us mortal humans, right? So that's something I've definitely been coming a lot more to terms with.
Even in Tekken now, when I coach people, I used to be like, learn your punishes, learn your throw breaks, do this. And I do stand by that if you're the type of person trying to go into tournaments, or like that's your goal, straight competition. But if somebody's just picking up Tekken, I'm like, here's your armor move, here's your rage art, and here's a big low. Run free, my child, and have fun. I think that when I was teaching initially, I was leaning into that analysis side, but after a couple years of competing and kind of unraveling that head-heart distinction, I'm kind of leaning more towards like, look, you're supposed to have fun with this. If you like being clean, aspire to this. But if you're here to play the game, hit buttons, get some wins, there's a lot of grime in this game, and it can be fun to use, so go for it.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's huge, especially for Tekken, and that's something I learned through the slams as well, was to lean into that immediately. I mean, in general, with beginner players, I think you're going to overwhelm them with trying to teach them too many mechanics, and then like most people at beginner level are winning based on like 2 options max that they're flowcharting like crazy through, and then your goal is to have the more dominant flowchart to kill them first. Like that is generally how you're going to win, before the concept of space control with punishes, anti-airs, that comes into play. That's already like the starting of intermediate level play. Like you have to go through so much to even get to that point, and that's when you can start cleaning up the loose ends. So I absolutely agree with that approach there. But I want to take a step back again to your final little spree there of Tekken 7 competition, where you're still a bit more of the brain player in this era. You're still being rewarded for your solid gameplay, because this is when you were on my radar, I think, for the first time, maybe a little bit before, but I remember seeing some of these moments live and watching some of these runs. But I want to go back, of course, to one of the biggest ones, CEO 2023, right? So this was a big tournament for you. And leading up to this, you had a few years of competing heavily online, and you definitely had some offline decent runs. But from what I'm seeing, like this to me was the one where it really culminated into like a major performance. So can you talk me through like a little bit of your expectations going into this tournament, and then how that played out?
Oh man. That was my best tournament by far. It was really fun too. So going into CEO 2023, and actually for most of this Tekken 7 arc in that last year, I had a clear offline problem. It was not just nerves and not just stage discomfort or like PS4 delay because it was laggier than PC. There was something about playing offline that just deactivated me. As I would show up and sit at the setup, I would be going through my routine of like, breathe, look at the screen. When something happens, keep playing every second of the clock, each moment. I had all these cues I've worked through with my coach and things like that. And it just felt like some things weren't sticking. I was showing up and just not playing the way I needed to play. So going into day 2 of CEO 2023, I was preparing for Raif from Saudi Arabia. And I was fighting my friend Tony, who's like my other coach at offline events, and he was washing me with his Jin. He was trying to copy Raif's style of just parrying a lot and swing mix-ups that are like risky or reactable and not really caring, just kind of like, can you deal with me before I kill you, was kind of the approach. And I was getting washed and I was so nervous and nothing was clicking. I think I lost like 0-10 or something in the warm-up. I don't know what it was. I was just dooming a little bit. I went to the CEO bar and got a drink because I was like, I am just not feeling it. It is so doomed. It's whatever. And then I go up and fight Raif. And I guess it hit because everything started working. I had my PhiDX kind of flow charts that everybody in the NA scene had seen a million times. But I loosened up a little bit and just kind of let them rock. And he wasn't prepared for some of those. On the flip side, I guess with a bit of that momentum, my whiff punishment was just a bit more on point. I had a really scrubby rage art that hit him, and that was a really clean win and kind of gave me a little bit of spike of momentum. First time I hit the stage, because I was like, I needed that win. This guy's been clearing out all of our pros. He's an international heavy hitter. Big win. That takes me to the Arslan Ash match. And everybody knew who this guy was. But a little bit before the match, Arslan Ash actually asked me, he said, do you want to play some sets? Do you want to do some matches? I'll use my main character. And I'm like, you're the pro, man. I need as much time as I can get to, I need everything. I said, no, like, I need this element of surprise.
He said that before your top 8, like the qualifying match to top 8.
Yeah, so this would have been 2 before that.
Okay, you were slated to play him in bracket, though. Yeah,
and then he asked me to do warm-up sets. Yeah.
He has to warm up with his next opponent in bracket?
Yes. And then he said, don't worry, I'll use my main character. If you fight this other guy, he won't use his main character, but I will. And I was like, no, you're the world champion. So I politely declined. And I'm glad I did. Because on that stage, all of my like PhiDX isms, the solid play with the splash of randomness, it all came together there. There was a moment where I ripped a string that I think if we had fought before, he would have ducked it. But it led to a wall splat into full combo. And then I have him at the last pixel, and I don't try to kill him. I just try to time him out. And I don't think many people who had fought Americans expected that. Because usually traditional Tekken, you have them at the wall, they can't whiff, or you can't whiff because they can't backdash. You just go for the mix and kill them, play with your timing a bit. But me, I was like, I don't want to die. He has to kill me. I'm going to chill. And I think all of these little things came together, caught him off guard, and off the momentum from Raif, I was kind of loose. I had some random ducks that just happened to go under key moves. And it was an insane flow state moment. And I think you said it was the culmination of a lot of things. It felt like all of the things I talked about with kind of growth mindset, just relaxing, enjoying the game that you're playing, just breathing and not thinking too much, playing to my heart instead of my head. I know we talked about being a Tekken 8 thing, but it goes way back to then, kind of like get out of your head and just fight the dude in front of you. All of those things kind of came together in the perfect way. And I remember getting really emotional after beating Arslan, not because of the progression in the tournament necessarily alone, and not just because it was beating Arslan Ash. It was also like I can really believe in the things I was teaching. I have it tested and proven, and I proved to myself that it wasn't just something I could theorize, it was something that I could do. And I think that those things meant the most to me, was being able to kind of prove it, put my, money where my mouth is, in that sense. So that was a very meaningful win for sure.
That sounds like yeah, of course, all those factors coming together, beating world-class renowned players. I mean, Arslan he's racking up Evo wins at this time, right? He's that dude. Massive win. But also, I think you're forgetting your performance-enhancing drug there. You took a shot. You don't think that was a bit of a contributing factor? Are you here endorsing alcohol as a PED to get through these brackets?
I would never tell somebody to drink before their bracket match, but I would be remiss to say that I am unfortunately closer to Jamie than I would like. Apparently, there's a threshold where I power up. And I did it because I just felt doomed, and I was like, man, I'm not playing well today. This is not my tournament. At least let me have some fun, hang out with the homies, whatever, get a drink. It turned out in that moment, it worked really well for my gameplay. So would I endorse it? Absolutely not. Does it work for me? Unfortunately, yes.
Well, hold on. What was the drink of choice? Maybe you can get endorsed.
It was a Johnny Walker Black.
Johnny Walker, come on!
Yeah.
We got a big market opportunity here in the FGC. The number one performance enhancing drink, Johnny Walker Black.
Red Bulls for the champs and Johnny Walker for the champ slayers, I guess. I don't know.
Oh, there you go. Okay, I don't know if I've actually drank before a major bracket, but I definitely have felt the inclination, like, hey, maybe if I'm nervous I should just take a shot or two. Like I honestly think there might be something to that, because so many people second guess their decision making in fighting game events, and that hesitation is death. Like that is, I think, one of the biggest issues with really strong players who don't quite put it all together for the win. It's nerves. It's really just like not committing to an option and or playing too scared. Like obviously sometimes you go for the gusto and it gets you killed, but I would argue for a class of players, it's more often them not committing to options that ends up getting them killed.
And you know what's interesting is that was a moment where I kind of realized it's not just nerves. I'd done so much content where I analyze and I talk and I watch and I think. That does not translate to combat. It's useful to learn lessons that help you in combat, but the act of fighting another person, video game, but the act of fighting another person is way faster than any kind of analysis can go. So it was not just the culmination of kind of my lessons, but also the culmination of training to be a competitor more than being an analyst, right? It's a completely different skill set, which may seem obvious to some people, but I think it was definitely surprising to me how you could be a thinker, you could be an analyst, and it would not get into your play unless you directly trained to be a player. And that distinction, I think, is probably, at least for me, I underestimated how big of a distinction that was.
Right. I mean, once you're in the heat of the moment, you have to just do. You have to just perform. You don't. And when I say like nerves and hesitation, I think I'm also referring to, like you're mentioning, not just being inherently nervous, but thinking. Yeah. Like you just need to do things. And I think there is. I always make a joke like, oh, like you can't cram for the exam. Like once you show up, it's whatever you. It's the culmination of the years of work, the body work you put before that match comes up, and then whatever comes out of you in that moment is the result of that. Like you can't try to think your way through the match. Like you might have cues that are like you're able to focus on because you've subconsciously digested and internalized the 99.99% of the gameplay you're doing, and then maybe these cues pop up where you're able to identify them, these patterns from the opponent, and then to feed that into your subconscious machine that's actually operating the controller at that moment. Hey, they're looking at this, so like while you're managing these 90 other things, let's set up this one mix-up or this one attempt there, because they're not going to be ready for it. And it makes me really think about like the shot, right? Because it's getting into that flow state, really. Like sometimes you need to take, or not need, but like people go towards caffeine, or they try to do they try to run it. Tokido runs in place, right? They do some push-ups. You try to get your heart rate elevated to reach a certain sweet spot. But on the other side, you can be too stimulated, too aroused. I think arousal is the literal term they use, not in that sense, but like literally your arousal, your heart rate, and then the alcohol can come from the other end. So it's pretty interesting to think that there's so many tricks to find that mental sweet spot
Yeah.
where you're able to just get into the zone and play. And it's I feel like for myself, it's been very rare to find those moments. I can identify them throughout the times I played in tournaments over the years. So it sounds like you found that zone that weekend.
Yeah, and what's fascinating is after how well it went, not just with the Arslan match, but how it carried over to the Chikarin match and then showing up in the top 8 stage. I didn't play as well as I wanted there. I think whatever flow state I found was completely gone. I think that's another skill set too that I would love to have the opportunity to train in the future, is getting into a top 8 and playing like you were in the tournament before, or like re-locking in after whatever break or downtime. That's a skill I'm interested in, opportunity providing. I would love to chase that. But no, I think that the really good performance under alcohol became another stressor for me. I found it as another challenge.
Really?
It was like, this is cool, this works, and it kept working. But at a certain point, I'm like, is this all that I am? Am I the type of player that I have to chemically turn off my brain in order to play the way I want to? That doesn't sit right with me.
Okay.
So this past 2 years, honestly, most of Tekken 8, it's been a lot of, can I access that same level of performance with whatever mental or bodily discipline I can reach? That was kind of my next objective. Is like, I got this amazing win. I accessed my flow state. I accessed everything I trained for with a bit of a helping hand. Can I do it without that? And that's been a new challenge too, but it's been similarly gratifying in a lot of ways in incremental steps. Like, it's pretty cool having this much, I guess, body and mind development through video games. It's way outside of what I initially expected going into it. Right. But it's going pretty well, I'd say.
Yeah, once you get into the weeds of it, there's so much you could do to optimize your performance outside of the game. And, this topic definitely interests me because I also remember thinking about this with Daigo talking about this once. He mentioned, I believe I'm retelling the story correctly, so comments, please call me out if I'm mashing together multiple different quotes and moments. But I believe it was from his set with Problem X at Red Bull Kumite 2018, I believe, and this is a Street Fighter V moment that comes up often because it's one of Daigo's best comebacks, and I feel like it's rare for Street Fighter V to even get that kind of respect from like the greater FGC and community, but it often comes by in semi-viral tweets where they overlay the Guile theme because he's on a pixel with Problem X, the Evo champion at the time, chasing him down, rushing him down. Daigo is like doing these crazy flash kicks and just like going crazy. And at the end of it, he makes the comeback and you cut to Daigo. Daigo's like, you see him like do like a big breath, and Problem X just like, I can't believe I lost that. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I think that wasn't even like the final round of the game. Like they're right back into it. You know what I mean? So it was just a crazy moment. And Daigo talked about it. He's like, I started to track my heart rate with a watch at the time. And this is 2018, which wasn't as common. And he's like, he mentioned his heart rate being something like 160 BPM at that moment. Like it was like really high. Like it was like he's sprinting full speed. And he mentioned how he aimed to either raise arousal or decrease it to find a sweet spot of where his heart rate should be. And there was a discussion of how like you can be too depressed in the moment where you're almost sleepy. Like the extreme is you're literally asleep, right? And finding that sweet spot was part of his approach to competing in this era, where like sometimes you have to hype yourself up and sometimes you have to calm yourself down, and you have to have techniques to be able to find your zone where you want to be. Because if you're too hyped up, that's a panic attack. Like you're losing control. But if you're too depressed in that moment, you're just not sharp and you're not reacting. You're like, oh, whatever. You're almost like deflecting the match in the moment, and you're watching yourself from a third person POV, and it's over, right? So it's definitely something that a lot of high level competitors are experimenting with, I think.
I love that you brought that up, the idea of being so depressed that you are not present and reacting and fighting. And not to hammer the point home too much, but that was my experience at TwitchCon Sage Jam Slam, the most recent one. I went in and Street Fighter brings out the worst in me. Street Fighter 6 brings out the worst in me. I get angry. I feel like I'm too slow. I feel like I'm not paying attention to the screen. I'm stuck in my head, all of those things. But in that tournament, I distinctly remember I drank maybe 7 water bottles over the course of that, 3-hour event. And I had to pee so many times because I was drinking so much water. But I distinctly remember sitting and doing some like initial breathing, like, like in and out, in, out, in, out. And I never do that before tournament matches. I'm always like, relax, focus, it's going to be okay, slow breathing. And I think that plays back to what I was saying, where I felt like offline I wasn't nervous, but I wasn't there. I was detached or too detached, So with all that experience, going into that slam and kind of hyping myself up physically and feeling that nervous itch or that like anticipation and kind of leaning into it bodily as well. And I think that's why I was drinking so much water. And I was having like a slight headache and I was really warm, but I played some of the best Street Fighter I've ever played. And it wasn't just with punishment anti-airing. I was like, this guy's gonna eat a DI right now. This guy's gonna let me walk up to him and low forward him. So it was fascinating how even with that experience before, I felt like there were moments where relaxing may have been the wrong answer, where I actually needed to rise or make my body rise to the occasion. I am nervous. It is intense, but the answer isn't to relax. It's to get up to that level and get sharp and have your mind and body be ready, to jump at these little twitch interactions or jump on that first instinct without hesitating.
Right. Have you ever had a moment where you distinctly sat there and said to yourself, I'm not fucking losing to this guy? Like, to me, because what you're describing, like, I definitely have moments where I feel like I played my best when I'm almost no emotion, just a machine. And then there's times where I've won because at a certain point I go, what the fuck? I'm not losing to this fucking guy. Not that they're a bad player, or like not even, you know what I mean? I'm just like, what? I'm fucking better than this guy. I'm not losing right now. Like
that specific
just
cue,
locked in like that.
That specific cue tends to cook me. I start ego playing or doing dumb stuff, but I play my best when I'm glazing my opponent in my head. I'm like, this guy is super nice. I have to be on like my best game possible. Like, wow, I hope I can, get around or something. And everything locks into, I do like the best whiff punishment ever. I do like the best anti-airing, or in Tekken circumstances, just like making the timing read that I never would commit to in the past. Something about really having a high opinion of my opponent, or either a high opinion of my opponent or just not locking in on what if I lose or I don't want to lose. That specifically works better for me, which is interesting.
I think there's a distinction with what I'm trying to say. I get what you're saying too, because I think there's a fear of losing, right? A fear of being embarrassed to have lost to someone you feel like you're better than you shouldn't have, which I definitely think is very real, and that is a death trap. I agree with you there. I guess what I'm describing is a little bit different. It's like, almost like there's no embarrassment. It's just like I'm fighting to the death right now, and I'm gonna win or die. You know what I mean? Like, like
I'm gonna win or die.
The lose option isn't even like a threat, because it doesn't matter. Like it doesn't exist. Like and that to me only happens in brackets versus strong players. Like it's I don't if it's someone who I'm like, I genuinely don't think is good, but things are getting spaghetti and I'm on the losing end of it. That's when panic sets in. It's very definite. It's like, I better clean up right now and not face the embarrassment of this loss. Versus this guy is good, but I'm not fucking losing to him. Like, I'm going to win right now. And then I might not win, but win or lose, like, I feel like when I embody that mindset, which just happens sporadically, I don't know how to control that. I feel good no matter what.
Right.
Like a good workout. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I exhausted something psychologically and went through something, and yes, that was work and that was strenuous, but I feel almost like now I'm in a recovery state where I will recover and rebuild and be stronger. So it's very, I don't know if you ever felt that experience. Where
like no compute power was wasted on what, like, this is losing in this situation, this is losing in this or whatever. It's just, this is what I think is going to win. I'm doing this this winning play, or like I'm making all my plays with full conviction. And of course, if I lose, I lose. But in the moment, it feels like this is the winning play. This is the winning play.
Like, that I'm going to win. I'm going to do this, and I'm going to win. You know?
Yeah, that feels crazy good. And it really was just, I guess, that Street Fighter Slam recently. The Arslan win was a different flow state. It was like a Zen state, right? But the Street Fighter Slam specifically, I was like, this DI is going to hit. This anti-air is going to body him. And I would miss it, and I'd be just like, whatever. This dude is about to whiff, Like, all of the plays felt so convicted, and I loved that. it is
Yeah.
intoxicating, and it does feel like a good workout.
It's very different because I've had two of my, like, I remember my combo break. I had a combo breaker run, and back in 2017, I got top 8. No feeling. Like, I went through so many top level international players that I've been watching for years and beat the crap out of them, and I was just like, machine, you know, like, like no reflection on it, nothing, whatever. And then I've had some online tournaments where, like, I'm gonna beat this guy's ass right now. Like, you're beating me right now. This is over. Like, you're not beating me anymore, and I'm gonna beat the shit out of you from here on out, respectfully. And you know, that came true. So, like, it's weird that there's different. I would almost call them both flow states, but completely different emotional profile, and both very productive. And I think the other part about it is, win or lose, it like doesn't matter. I felt satisfied either way. Like, sometimes I've won out of the state, sometimes I've lost, but like, it doesn't matter. Like, you're just playing.
I think, and that's the joy of competition. And recently, having gone to locals, I love seeing other people access something like that, where it's like, it doesn't matter how good they are or what their proficiency is they're fighting the other dude in front of them, and I see them make a play like, oh, he's really trying to do it to him. Like, it does not matter what the frames were, what the situation was. Is this reactable? He's like, this guy is ducking, and I'm gonna hit him. Like, I love that kind of energy, and it makes it's really cool to see that in person in a group compared to like always consuming something in a VOD or online separately, and like, you know, being detached from that. That's something I've appreciated recently too, is that experiencing that among other people regardless of skill level.
Right. Yeah, and I think some of the best matchers are like, you know, losers round 2. Like, that energy comes out at all levels of play. It doesn't have to be you know, the grand finals or anything like that. It can definitely occur at any part of the bracket where there's a crowd forming. You know, you might see some of the most hype matches that never in a million years would make a stream, be recorded on the bot anywhere. But that competitive energy does persist. Yeah, interesting. So speaking of that offline competitive energy, you know, you had a really hot streak end of Tekken 7 going into Tekken 8. The final Tekken World Tour, another amazing run from you, right? In the LCQ, you go all the way to 3rd place.
Yeah. Was
there any major revelations during that run? Any impact on that? Any reflections? Because this is like the end. I'm assuming there might have been some kind of feeling of finality with this chapter of your competitive career.
Yeah. The thoughts around it being final were I was entertaining for a while. You know, I was like, this dude Noctis is not coming back to another game. This style of gameplay, we'd already seen, I think, trailers for Tekken 8 by then, right? I'm like, this is going to be an aggressive game. At the time, I thought it was going to be like Europe's best game, and European playstyles are some of the hardest for me. So I was like, yeah, this is the one to make a run if I can, you know? And I remember in the moment, in that tournament, I had some really good wins I was super happy with. And then there were also like really ugly moments where I was like, I was hesitating this and that. So by the time I got to that last match against AK, who was a player I watched back in Tag 2 when he was 12, right? So it was cool getting to fight him, but I was kind of not resigned to the outcome, but I was like, you know, I'm not playing at my best. This is kind of the last run. I really respect this player. We're just going to, you know, kind of leave it on the floor, see what happens. And I think the only thing I had in that moment, regret-wise, was probably just preparation. I bet more preparation for Akuma and Shaheen might have made a slight difference. There were some cleanliness issues there. But yeah, I think for a while I had come to terms with the fact, but you know, honestly, when I picked Noctis back in 2019, I had kind of come to terms with the fact that this is a DLC character for a game that is not going to be relevant when Tekken 8 comes out. So longevity-wise, I knew it was on a timer. So there wasn't a lot of anxiety in the run based on that necessarily. It really was just like, can I put up this flow state performance again? And I had moments of it and moments of not. So yeah, it was a very middling experience in that sense, where it's like, it would have been really cool to make it to the actual finals. It would have been great to make it to that stage, and that would have been the time to do it. But based on how I was playing that day, based on how Joe Crush was playing that day, the guy who actually did make it through the first place spot, I was like, yeah, this was his tournament to do it, and you know, I put up what I could. Right. So it was a very middle emotional takeaway from that one, I would say.
I see. I mean, but third place, definitely nothing to scoff at there. Like, at the end of that era, yeah, I still think you put up really big numbers. So that's something to be proud of. But then, the Tekken 7, that chapter's coming to a close. Tekken 8 is releasing. At this time, are you like making that pivot in your mind, right? This might be something to go all in on in terms of content, being part of the FGC, competing maybe. What is your mind with the looming release of Tekken 8? I don't know if looming is the right word. Maybe season 2 will be looming, but
yeah.
The incoming release of Tekken 8, what are you thinking at this era?
So if I recall the timeline correctly, before the LCQ, I had a chance to train with Arslan, Ash, and Nee. They came to California for some Evo Tekken 8 like pre-show, like kind of play an early version of the game and do like exhibition matches. And in my mind, it was like, when's the next time you're going to have top level competitors in the States near me, and they're not prepping for like a major tournament victory? It's strictly exhibition. Plus, they might just be bored if they're in this hotel and have nothing to do. What if I pulled up with the Tekken 7 setup and we just streamed it? So that was kind of my biggest content push prior to Tekken 8 even coming out. We came over to there. I set it up in the hotel room. Of course, the Wi-Fi for the floor goes down. Everything that could have gone wrong did. But we ended up streaming a few of the matches with Arslan and Nee. Those videos I made out of that, kind of analyzing some of the matches and doing some commentary, in addition to the Tekken 8 ones, were the first ones of mine that kind of got some decent traction, where I copied kind of the Gotham chess formula of give a little preamble, watch the video, have some notes on the side, analyze, rewind, things like that. And me and Speedkicks at the time were kind of like talking about, if I did a YouTube channel, what would it look like? We kind of were like, this is something. You found something. So I had that little formula going into LCQ and finals, right? And with the launch of Tekken 8. 2 weeks before Tekken 8 is about to launch, I get laid off from my remote job at that time. And it was... a little lore. It was the second time I got laid off by the same company and the same team. So at that point, it was kind of funny. It was like the first time I was devastated. Then I got rehired because I had the experience. I was literally trained to be on that team.
Right.
And then they downsized again and I got laid off. So it was comical the second time around. But I thought about it. I'm like, 2 weeks before Tekken 8. This has got to be the time to do something, right? It was kind of like I'd been considering it. Like, there will be probably a big boom. The game is visually beautiful. It's clearly targeting a newer audience. This might be the time to do something. And that layoff really, I guess, pushed me to like, all right, we gotta give this a go. Now would be the time. I have momentum from beating Arslan. I have the momentum from the LCQ. We just found this formula. We have to run with this and see where it goes. And that's what really did it. So 2 weeks before, I sat down really intently. I looked at all the preliminary footage that existed. And I was like, we can come out with the beginner guide of all time. I bet we can do it. And I was heavily inspired by Massive Zug, who did a beginner guide for Tekken 7. And truthfully, it was kind of, there was like a fire under my rear too, because I was like, this dude made the greatest Tekken 7 beginner guide ever. He's definitely going to do it for Tekken 8. So I have to get it out before he does. So I was hard locked in on studying as much as I could. I was scripting it over and over again. And then once I actually was able to record footage, I was in that editing software constantly throwing stuff around and snipping and trying to get it as tight as possible. I remember that was like a 12 to 18 hour a day editing project. And I was sweating. It was the sweatiest thing I've done in a long time content wise. And I'm glad I did it, because I think that plus the League of Legends streamers and TFT streamers coming to Tekken were how this all kind of started. So I'm really glad I put that effort into that. In retrospect, it was very fortunate I got laid off in a moment where it would push me to do that.
Right.
And I think that beginner guide is probably where it all turned. But it definitely started before with the locking in the format of who I wanted to copy Gotham Chess and getting the reps with that so that I was confident enough to make that jump in the first place.
Right. That's amazing. I mean, luck is when preparation meets opportunity, and in some ways, being laid off a second time from the same team is it's an opportunity in
Like, are
many
you
ways.
telling me something? Like,
yeah, just keep getting fired from jobs and then finding new ones that are doing even better than the previous ones. Yes.
Yeah.
No, but that's really incredible that you had already lined up all these skills. You'd already laid the groundwork, and it all came together in that moment to then catapult really your content creation career in this sense. And I'm glad you brought up the Gotham chess formula, because that's something I wanted to ask you about.
yeah.
Do you still feel like that formula is viable to this day? I'm kind of curious how you feel about that, because I'm a fan of Gotham chess as well, and the clickbaity title and thumbnail to draw you in, but it's always a little preamble about some context of the matches, maybe some tournament structure, or latest drama between the players, and then analysis of the games right after. That seems to be like a formula that can go on forever for chess. And chess has, almost like Tekken, a very large international audience that speaks English. That's something that I've noticed actually a parallel with Tekken and chess.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that is still a viable format to this day? I'm kind of curious how you feel about that, because I have questioned that myself for the world of Street Fighter.
It feels like an existential question right now, because I definitely have reservations now that Tekken is in a downturn, to put it mildly. And I think we've seen how both on Gotham's channel and I think on mine, how it lives and dies by, I think, the trendiness of the game. So when chess was super hot, each of his videos was doing like 1 million or like, 800,000, 900,000. And now it's probably down to like 200,000, 300,000, unless it's like a Magnus video, or unless it's like a hot topic drama video. And I felt similarly with mine. Like, unless it's an Arslan Ash video or an E video, there are lower numbers for sure. Is it still viable? I believe there's probably room to pivot. On the flip side, I feel like it fortunately just plays to my strengths. I feel like the way I like to talk and the way I like to analyze it was a great fit to find that format to copy. If I were to pivot, I think it would require a lot of research and a lot of thought to kind of do something with as much intent and enthusiasm, right? Ultimately, what I think worked so well about it is just I felt like I could do it all the time. It was, I would wake up for all of like 2024, I would wake up, find a match, hit record, and it felt like I was flow stating. And I'd be tired after, and I'd be like, wow, I am spent. But the whole time I was doing it, I felt very activated, So it would be challenging to find something that I think creates that same flow state and energy. I've been trying it in a few other ways. I've been doing like 1st to 10 reviews and trying to condense those, which is honestly a miserable experience. Like taking a no commentary, no nothing 1st to 10 and being like, okay, there's no timestamps, there's no score on the screen. I have to note every single moment it's a new match. Okay, which of the fun matches? Did I forget something? Where they've been on the same stage for 8 matches? I don't remember which one we're on now. So I have to there's a lot of housekeeping to even begin trying to craft that content, and then trying to tell a story when it's straight sweaty gameplay is also pretty hard. So I've been experimenting a little bit, and I think that I definitely got lucky that it was working really well for launch Tekken 8. I would like it to keep working because it's fun for me to do, but I've recognized that there's probably room to pivot. So like people like seeing me rage on stream, so we're doing rage compilations for the second channel, stuff like that. And that's also kind of fun for me because it creates this divide where like I'm in teaching mode and then I'm in raging mode, and both of them are fun. So it's there's a lot of, I mean, as you know, content is a lot of constant evolution, right? So there may be a time where it has to change. I'm not sure. I'm kind of just feeling it out at this time.
Well, as long as you're still energized by it, I think that is so key to any sort of content, is feeling the organic and real enthusiasm from the creator. So as long as you still believe in the format and you're still energized by it, I think it'll still persist. It's something that I've always been curious about, because I guess I've personally found a little bit less enthusiasm about breaking down specific Street Fighter 6 moments. Like I like an content analysis of that quality as well, but sometimes I feel like I'm squeezing this stone like
Yeah,
for another drop of blood, and I'm like, how much more can I get out of it, really?
Yeah.
So occasionally I feel like the well runs a little dry, but you have been consistently outputting this content for years now, and at a really high caliber. So I just was wondering like where your mindset was at this stage in your career. And it sounds like you still have the fire in you, like that. So it's good to me. That would be my advice, unsolicited, to you. Like if you still believe in the format and you still feel energized by it, that is the core component, I think, of great content, and that is what brings people into the fold. If you love Tekken and you love analyzing it, that'll get people interested in Tekken as well. So
I appreciate that.
It's good to give still life in that.
I heard in, I think it was your Diaphone episode, you talked about when Street Fighter 4 was hot. That was like full tunnel vision. Like Street Fighter 4 is everything. Like that's the vibe. And for me, not just Tekken 8, but like the interactions that happen in Tekken does that for me. So a lot of my favorite creators are like Fortnite creators. So like Cypher PK or Reese Hubbard, things like that. Gotham Chess only does chess. I think in my dream world, Tekken is always relevant and interesting, and I can just keep doing this. It's like this, the way that I genuinely love when two people are interacting in a Tekken engine and making Tekken decisions with each other. It could keep me going for, I don't see myself getting tired of it for a long time. So I would love, there's a big part of me that wants to like explore my potential as a content creator. Like what other things could I do? What other things are interesting to me? But there's also a part of me that just gets this high off of Tekken stuff that isn't very easily replicable. So to that end, I do feel fortunate that I'm able to do something like this and talk about it and be excited by it, and people like to partake in that energy.
Right. No, that's amazing. But you have been branching out, right? Like you've been doing the Stage Jam Slams. I don't know if that was your push after, you seem to be a multidisciplinary gamer for a long time with your Smash League. There was a DBFZ combo video in there I saw. Then
oh my God, there was?
It couldn't have been There was. But then you locked in with Tekken 7 and Tekken 8, and this became your career. Was the Stage Jam Slam, after you had the experience coaching them for Tekken, then you got brought on for Street Fighter, was that like pulling you out of this Tekken only zone that you've been in for the past couple of years, like maybe almost 4 or 5 years at that point, and then putting you to a different game, different fighting game, different experience, not being the teacher, being the student again? Like, was that the first time you got pulled out of that zone in a while?
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's the most like vulnerable I felt as a content creator, is like I am not in a position to say things with confidence or say things with authority. I'm very new to, like, Street Fighter 6 was pretty much my first Street Fighter. I played Street Fighter 2 on like Super Nintendo like twice or something, and I played like one game of Street Fighter 5 and said, I can't Korean backdash, why am I playing this? So like Street Fighter 6 was my first time genuinely digging into it and taking the game completely for what it is, and leaning on the experience of others and trying to both build my own opinions, but also kind of develop the fighting game trauma that will help me relate to people of that community, So the Sage Jam Slams, honestly, were kind of just like a competitive indulgence. It felt like if I'm in a seeded tournament to my skill level, I feel like I can full send it as a competitor and really invest myself into it. Whereas if I'm trying to compete with a Pakistani pro who practices 8 to 12 hours a day in Tekken, I'm like, I feel delusional doing that. Like I would be fighting for a champ slayer situation or like a get a big win moment. But the slams felt like a time where it's like, okay, it's seeded by skill. It's a team event. I could do like a fight for first place. Right. So it feels like that's how I went into it. And then I was pleasantly surprised by how much I like caught the Street Fighter bug. I remember going to bed and I would imagine doing like a Kami combo, and I just keep hearing and opening my chance, stuff like that, and I'm like, wow, this game really hit for me. So there's, and with the downturn of season 2, I think I wish I did more Street Fighter stuff and kind of expanded where I think my voice and my content style could reach. But I have the strength and the flaw of being really tunnel vision and momentum focused. So Tekken just felt like, this is what I'm comfortable. I'm not happy with where the game is at this moment, but I really want to keep pushing as hard as I can go in this direction, Right. So I constantly entertain these other pathways, I guess, but ultimately, yeah, heart-wise, it would be so great to just do the Tekken thing on and on and on and on.
Right.
But,
and well, you've alluded to it a couple times, right? Like the downturn, season 2 Tekken. Of course, there was maybe, has it been 8 months? I think
it's been 8 months.
It's
8 months
been 8
and 9
months
days.
since season 2 released. And, Tekken 8, after the initial honeymoon phase wore off, a lot of people were starting to critique a lot of the legacy players, especially like the heat system, the offensive direction the game was going in. And they quadrupled down on that with season 2 to disastrous results in the eyes of I think most people. I'm trying to think of a different audience that would have looked favorably on season 2, because generally there's often like competitive player complaints that might not actually breach containment and reach the more vast casual audience, because Tekken has a huge casual appeal, especially compared to other competitive fighting games, even more so than like a Street Fighter outside Japan these days. So they're often separate worlds, but I feel like season 2 broke containment and kind of poisoned the well of goodwill for all levels of Tekken fans, and was definitely horribly received. I'm curious about your approach to this era, right? And how do you handle the subject of your content and your career and a passion that you have being shifted into a way where you don't identify the direction, you don't enjoy the direction, but you also have a voice in the scene, almost, the responsibility, I would argue, of a prominent content creator in a community around a hobby that you, up till that moment, were always, I would say, striving for a positive growth mindset. You weren't drama farming. You weren't like rage baiting. You were talking about the actual game and growing as a player and trying to bring people to the fold to enjoy high level Tekken. How do you go about approaching that when suddenly what you enjoyed about the game is modified in a way where you can't justify it? Like, what is your mindset at this time, and how do you approach that?
Well, I can tell you that with 8 months of experience, I have a better idea of how I would have handled it. In the moment, though, it was doing my best to be as, I guess, tactical as possible. I feel like content creation is always this mix of passion and tactics. You got to be smart about what you're doing, but you have to be authentic.
It's political to a degree.
So I had already had what I felt like was a lot of pressure. I think back in, I want to say November of the previous year, still in season 1 at this point, they announced Heihachi, they announced the stage, and they were doing some positive changes to the game, like QOL stuff for practice mode, that I genuinely was enjoying. And so I put out a video that said, like, they're fixing everything, with like a big smile, and I was really happy about it. And that, to this day, that's a comment meme. Like, to this day, people will comment on my videos, are they fixing everything yet? Are they fixing everything? Because the day after I put out that video, there was the announcement that the stage wasn't included in the season pass. People, reasonably jumped on that. And then, incessantly since then, people have called me kind of a shill for the company and things like that. So I was having a great run with the content, but I was kind of frustrated that I was seen as being overly positive for the game because of one appearance at Evo and then that video. So going into season 2, I was like, well, okay, I have this perception that I'm overly positive on the game. Maybe at least my critiques would have been listened to, because we know that the dev team listens to Twitter, they listen to public perception and stuff like that. So when season 2 comes out and does the opposite of everything I ever hoped for, I was like, great, now people think I'm a shill for the game, and the developers don't value my opinion on the game. So I felt very like nowhere to go, kind of like great. Like I didn't know if there was an audience even to please in this situation. I knew there were people who really enjoyed my content for me, and I didn't want to take that for granted. But I think the pressure of the negativity that was kind of circling that was really scary to me, honestly. And my response at the time was, honestly, like, just say how I feel about it in a way that won't ruin the fun for people who still want to play Tekken. Because right at season 2 launch, there are people who I'm cool with and like friends with who do enjoy the direction or are okay with it, or are kind of like, this is just what it is, we just got to play. But I didn't want to diminish their enjoyment of the game or people who felt like them, even though I wanted to criticize and ask for change. So I put out a video that was like, I'm taking a break or something, and explained all the mechanics why, and it was cool because Arslan commented on that and actually agreed, like, this is well explained, this is the problem with the game right now. And I still don't think the development team agrees with what my vision of the game should be which is totally fair. I don't think they should just listen to one content creator and jump to that. But my strategy, I guess, is do what I can to stay passionate about the game. And it turns out still watching tournaments and seeing these players try their hardest to optimize and make consistency out of a game that has tried to become a coin flip game is still cool to me, it turns out. So I really leaned into that. I was just putting out a bunch of like commentary on tournament matches where I was really excited. But I'm not gonna lie to you, it was tough, and my cadence of uploads heavily dropped. My tutorial, I didn't feel like making tutorials for a game that we knew was gonna change. So I was like, what do I do? So really, it was a very reactionary time. It was a very emotional time. And I tried my best not to ruin other people's fun or overreact. But with hindsight, I really felt like myself and a lot of friends, it felt like we lost our gym. Like our gym closed down and we were all trying to find joy in other areas, or, you know, revisit the same gym under new ownership and see if we'd still enjoy it. It was a really weird time. Right. To be a Tekken grinder, to be a Tekken content creator, and to also, you know, we talked about Harada in the beginning being public facing, to kind of be public facing and have both blame that I felt wasn't rightly placed, but also kind of not feeling supported from the dev team's decision making. It was a really weird place to be. Right. Yeah, no, I would not go back.
I can imagine how that would feel, because I think all content creators around gaming have similar experiences to some varying degree of the season 2 Tekken dilemma. And you know, of course, you're going to be called the shill no matter what. Like, that is right. I've been using the term Schrodinger shill, because like you're both a hater, you're both a blind hater and a shill, and it just depends on who's observing you with whatever out of context clip they choose. So,
or you're
like,
a fence sitter. So.
Yes, exactly. So like that's something that I've definitely been experiencing for years. And so it's always difficult to be in the middle of that, because you want your passion to be purely positive. And when circumstances around the game don't reflect that, it's very difficult to toe that line. And suddenly you realize, like, you're not just in a position of talking about a video game that you like way too much. It's literally political. It's in a very strange way. You're managing optics, you're managing people's expectations. And suddenly, I think there's a sudden switch when things aren't all gravy, when things aren't all good. Wow, you're suddenly in a public facing position where you are a spokesperson for the community and you have power and influence, and you're like, holy crap, wait, I didn't mean for that to happen.
Yeah. No,
like, I felt that switch for me before, where I was like, whoa, like, I just wanted to talk about frame data and combos and mind games, and then suddenly something flipped. And it's weird to be caught in the middle of it all.
And I was like, I felt like the I'm taking a break from Tekken was at the time I thought it was a great balance. It was like, I'm speaking to myself. Early in the video I say, don't quit the game just because of what I'm saying. Like, if you like it, stick with it. Like, this is just my opinion. And then months down the road, I went to the Albuquerque Regional Sandia Showdown, and I was talking to the TOs from Colorado and from there, and they didn't blame me or anything, but they were saying, yeah, season 2 is tough. Like, we saw numbers go way down for our locals. Like, people just weren't coming out. And in retrospect, I was like, I'm stressing about views and comments and things like that. There are people out here hosting events, spending their time and money just for a purely community effort. And the videos I put out, the optics, like you mentioned, the optics I put out aren't just for me. There are people out there who do this for the community, and it's affecting them heavily. And that sat with me for a long time of like, it's not just the optics in the sense of like, is my game going to stay popular? Will people still want to play it? Will people still watch me? It's like, being positive, even if it comes at my expense, might be worth it just for these TOs and these community members who have a in-person gathering, or like a home even, through this video game. I took it way more seriously, I think, in kind of, or like the negative comments about being a shill kind of flew away at that point in how seriously I took them, because to me it was like really passionate people having their actual time and money affected in person. That hit so much more differently. I'm like, yeah, call me a shill, bro. Like, these guys should have their community, should have their gathering place, you know, their shared joy. I think that's way more important than being called a shill.
I agree with that
you know?
perspective. I think it's a tough line to toe, though, because you could argue that no matter how much you focus on the positive aspects, without veering into the level of just blatant lying, right? Like, you're choosing the focus of like, here are the elements of my passion that I am still passionate about and really enjoy, and choosing to focus on the positive. You can do that till the cows come home, but if at some point there has to be an organic level of interest in the hobby and medium, and that's ultimately up to the developers. Right? Like, and the product has to be something that resonates with people, and if it doesn't, eventually it's all going to dry up, right?
Yeah, and that's why I was so upset at the time too. It's like, if I upload, it's going to be negative. If it's negative, it affects these people who I don't want to affect negatively. I guess I just can't upload. And that was what I arrived at. And I just stopped uploading, and it was tough. And not just because of like reduced traffic, which, you know, I've talked very early on how I enjoy attention and things like that, so that bothered me. But honestly, even the skill of like recording an analysis video, if I took 3 days off, I would feel it. So like, I used to be able to do a bunch of my analyses in like one take and just go. I took 3 days off, and I would have to stop and be like, okay, editor, please help me with this part. Please help me with this part. And even now, my analysis muscle hasn't like recovered from the season 2 thing. And I know that sounds really crazy, but like, yeah, like, I used to feel so good one taking, flow stating through commentary, stuff like that. And it hasn't come back. And that's one of the more painful parts, because I directly feel it. You know, aside from numbers or community stuff, this body and mind connection of speaking and having energy and speaking my mind in an elegant way has deteriorated, and that feels really bad.
Interesting. I understand how that feels as well. Like, I've done a number of like the one take prepared video segments, and it's definitely a muscle for sure. And there's days where I'm in the flow state, in the zone, everything is eloquent and forming. There's other days where words just refuse to come out, and I make no sense whatsoever, and I'm like, this is going to be the worst fucking video of all time, and why even bother? Like, I think that's very, very relatable. But it sounds like you're still able to at least find those pockets to gravitate towards and push through, because I'm looking at from the outside in at the season 2 drama. I don't know how I would have handled that, because I'm already struggling enough with Street Fighter 6 just not being supported like as it should. Like, and I they keep circulating. SageM did me dirty recently. He clipped me on a random VOD and put me front, face, and center on an opening of a video of me like being upset about current fighting game releases, and 2x KO wasn't exactly popping off like people would have expected. And
I did see 6, that clip.
Brother, man, I got a bone to pick with SageM. Like, that wasn't a YouTube video I produced. That was in the middle of a multi-hour tournament restream VOD that never saw the light of day on YouTube whatsoever. It was
a moment of weakness, you know. Emotions were high.
and then I'm the face of fighting games or dead discourse. Like, that was not, because I tried to stay away from that as well. Like, there's a fine line between criticisms and then your content becoming a haven for people to be miserable. And it's difficult, because I think in the online way we operate online now and how communities form, like, everything is so polarizing. Everything, not just politics, just literally every space online gravitates towards polarization, and that's just like the end game of how internet communities and social media platforms operate. It is the goal. Like, they optimize towards, this is the best thing ever, this is the worst thing ever. Like, you have to pick your camp. And so to be caught in between that, sometimes we're like, hey, this thing is really great. However, maybe these things could be improved, and they're not. There's not as much support as there could be in this direction. Or maybe we shouldn't, sell Evo to Saudi Arabia. Maybe, maybe Capcom should focus on actually releasing content for the game. Maybe Tekken 8 shouldn't put out a patch that no one likes. Like, these things exist, and you get caught in the middle of it. And it sucks. It really sucks when you just want to talk about the games. So, I saw that from a distance, and I was like, man, Phi must be going through it.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the empathy, because yeah, it was like, on one hand, it felt weird to complain about like, I can't talk about video games the way I want to, but then really it's like, I can't just talk about video games. That's really weird, because that's how it started. That's where the fun was at, you know? And it's like you said, like, we can only do so much and keep it organic. There is kind of this external entity that has more control over it than we do, and as much as we try to optimize and, you know, take what we can into our own hands, yeah, there's only so much that can be done. So I guess to not end on that note, the new DLC characters have been giving people begrudgingly hope for season 3. I do want to say that is that, like, we're seeing new designs. There's still definitely modern fighting game stuff in a lot of ways, but it's less of season 2. So who knows? Right, be better.
I feel like I've been seeing a slight upturn recently in Tekken. Maybe that's just my uninformed perspective. I do feel like there's an element of, you know, people throw their tantrums and run in circles until they pass out. Like, yeah,
it feels that way.
There's a level of exhaustion. But the new character, Mary, how do you say her name? I've been seeing. Is it Mary Zoe?
It's so the game announcer says Miaris. I asked guy from Tekken Madagascar. He said Miarsu. So if you want to be technical, Miarsu, because the last syllable of a multi-syllable vowel, or the last vowel of a multi-syllable word is cut off. Anyways, I say Miarisu because I forget the first part, but Miarsu is apparently the correct way to do it.
I've seen some positive reception of, you know, even though she's a bit of a weapon wielder, which is always kind of controversial in the Tekken community, there's a bit of a return to the old Tekken structure in her gameplay.
Yeah. The pole is mostly for dancing, it turns out. She doesn't actually swing it as much as she uses it as a stance to dance on.
Perfect.
And then the only weapon moves are like, she has a tail, it's turning out the tail is pretty crazy, and like a snake arm. So those moves have kind of risen up as like really strong. But aside from that, the structure for a game plan is a lot of poking. It's a lot of whiff punishment and counter hitting. And her stance, while really good, is not a 50-50 stance. It's like you can pick what pocket of options you want to cover, and she has to answer those too, otherwise she dies. So there's a lot more interaction happening. It is a little fast-paced and kind of fatiguing in a lot of ways, but at least it's more deep than just like, I was supposed to duck, I was supposed to stand up, you know?
Right. Okay. So do you feel like the current PhiDX format, then the analysis of the gameplay, trying to promote Tekken as, you know, the beautiful game that it can be, is there hope for that in the future?
I'm probably going to keep running that format into the ground. I think the only way I stop is when reality grabs me by the shoulders and shakes me and says, you got to do something different, just because it is so much fun. It is the most comfortable, and I'm a creature of habit and comfort. So it's very likely I will keep doing that for a while. I just really like it so much. And I think the only adaptations that I can really think of is if I get really efficient at directing my editor to try and find enhancements to it. So maybe little pop-ups of screen caps that show the moves I'm talking about, or, you know, a lot of things that I don't want to overpromise. But yeah, I can imagine enhancements to the format, but I like the idea of my speaking taking center stage. I think that's the benefit of the Gotham format, is that the speaking is the real appeal. It's something you can put on while you're doing your dishes, or put on your second monitor, or while you're driving. And feedback I've gotten from people too is like, to them it feels like listening to a baseball game on the radio or something. There's like commentary, there's enough information that the key moments can be imagined, and I want to lean into that strength, and I don't think I'm done exploring that part of it. So I don't think the format can die, because I still have optimizations to make, and it would take a lot for me to give up, I guess.
I see. And what about the Tekken surrounding it, right? Like, we opened this discussing about Harada, how he's now leaving Tekken to potentially pursue other creative pursuits, maybe retire. We'll see what he has next. So the future of Tekken is definitely in a very interesting place with that on the horizon. So where do you see this going in the next year or so? What are your predictions for the state of Tekken in the next year?
I'll say that amidst all of the changes that I've been very unhappy with, and, you know, me and obviously other members of the community have been pretty unhappy with. There have been moments where you see a change, a balance patch, or a little adjustment that's like somebody in there knows what's going on. Somebody in there trusts that they understand what Tekken is about. I just hope that those voices keep getting heard, right? You know, there is clear evidence that somebody knows what's going on and is doing their best with what they can do. I hope that they get to do more. And honestly, I've been like, before Tekken 8 came out, I was really vocal against the heat system. I was kind of like, these forced mix-ups are the problem with Tekken 7. You know, we should stop this. And I've come around in some ways where I think that even if it doesn't look the way I like it to look, I see better players than me, better Tekken players, like legacy Tekken players, using their legacy Tekken skills better than we were able to do in 7. Better than we were able to do even in Season 1 in some ways. And that's always going to be what's cool to me, is if I can look at a better player, see the Tekken stuff they're doing, and be like, you see that? I want to do that. Don't you want to do that? That, I think, is the loop I want to keep going into. And if Season 3 brings that, even if it has spears and snakes and weapons or whatever, as long as there's cool Tekken stuff happening, and I can point at that and be like, yeah, look at that, I think I'll be good. So that's what I'm hoping for.
Beautiful. Love the optimistic outlook. There's always more Tekken to be played, and I definitely share in your optimism and passion for fighting games. I think just the genre is a beautiful genre, and as long as the players remain passionate at pushing them to their limits, I think there'll be people like yourself out there who want to break that down and show to the world like why this is so amazing. So Phi, thank you so much for not just coming on the show. Thank you for everything you do for the FGC and the Tekken community. Is there anything else you want to sign off with for the people before we let you go on your way?
No, I appreciate you having me a ton. I think this is a fantastic show, and I'm looking forward to the episodes to come. I'm really glad you invited me to be on. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you again. All right, everybody. That's going to be it for this episode of Trash Talk. Thanks for tuning in. Peace. That wraps up this episode of Trash Talk. If you're watching on the brand new Trash Talk dedicated YouTube channel or on your video feed on Spotify, you'll be seeing some names going by on the screen right now. These are our Patreon supporters over at patreon.com/Brian_F. Without their support, this show and this new revamped season of Trash Talk would not be possible. I know there was a decent amount of wait between our last episodes, but we're really excited to now hit the ground running and delivering you continuous and improved Trash Talk content from here on out. And once again, this would not be possible without your support over at the Patreon page. So thank you so much for supporting Trash Talk, and thank you for tuning in. We'll catch you in the next episode. Peace.